Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Unwritten Podcast. If you're new here, welcome to the Unwritten family, where we talk about love, passion, relationships, and ultimately living a life of purpose and fulfillment and peace. In today's episode, I have Morgana Rae. Morgana Rae is a spiritual and life and money coach. Her journey takes us from her life in San Diego, Los Angeles, and exploring the contrast in what's it like to live in California. We also dive into her early childhood memories, family dynamics, and personal experiences that shaped her life and career. Morgana shares her struggles with money in the beginning, throughout her coaching career, and the breakthroughs that she finally discovered that transformed her relationship with finances in general. She introduces this concept called the money monsters and provides step-by-step guide to creating a loving relationship with money, which she calls the money honey. Morgana's approach is grounded in unconditional love and presence and kind of spirituality, in my opinion, offering the unexpected answers and practical answers and actions that can improve your overall financial health. We also hear her real life success stories over her years of coaching, discuss the importance of self-worth, and explore the profound impact of coaching and personal growth. Join us as Morgana Rae offers her final insights and reflections about how to transform your relationship with money and finding a new lease on life. I do want to apologize in this episode. The audio was using my computer audio for some reason, and I didn't know until I had to go back and edit the episode. So I do apologize on that. It's still a great episode, and it was fun chatting with Morgana Rae. So without further ado, enjoy the episode, guys. See you. Welcome to the Unwritten Podcast with your host, Thomas Malpass, where we are on a mission to help the world find more purpose, passion, and peace in their everyday lives. Through deep conversations and connection, tune in because we are all on this journey of life together. I used to live in San Diego for 8 years.
Well, San Diego's gorgeous and the weather is beautiful. Long Beach, kind of the same. It's hard to go wrong. We have like rainbow crosswalks and great restaurants, and it's just a very friendly city.
Yeah. I do miss the weather over there.
Yeah, my husband and I have made the decision to move back to Los Angeles, which is like 30 minutes away, to be closer to family. Because, at a certain point, family gets older and we need to know. But yeah, it's giving up the Long Beach lifestyle is I'm already grieving.
I feel like that's not, like, you're only 30 minutes.
Well,
minutes.
It depends on traffic. 30 minutes can be 2 hours at the wrong time of day. The traffic is so heavy around the clock in Los Angeles. Long Beach is easy. We can go to the beach and find street parking in front of the beach any day.
Yeah, I forgot about LA traffic. That's why they're building like a bunch of freeways.
Which I don't know what else you can do.
Yeah,
it will.
So,
And just visiting LA to look at the place we're moving into. When I lived in LA 9 years ago, before we bought our house in Long Beach, I drove 500 miles a year on my car because I walked everywhere. And I'm heading back to pretty much the same neighborhood. So I kind of missed the traffic because I was walking anyway. Now that I'm a country mouse visiting the big city.
You're a country mouse now?
9 years in Long Beach, and now I'm a country mouse.
For
I have been
Texas.
to Austin a couple of times and loved it.
Texas is like there's really
Yeah,
country parts out here.
we do in California. Um,
You'd have to like go more east to the more countrysides.
yeah, there's tons of
Yeah.
farmland. When I was growing up as a little kid in LA and Hollywood, and my mom would go down to what she called a fat farm in Mexico. What was that called? It's like a really fancy, like, health resort now, but at the time it was like camping with, like paper underpants, 7 pairs of paper underpants. I was like 3. It was kind of,
Or like
no, it
passion
was
fruit.
in Mexico, and
Oh,
I
in
can't remember
Mexico.
the name of it right now. But we would drive down through Orange County, and at the time it was
Mm.
all orange groves. Now it's all
Mm.
cities. Now Irvine is sort of like this, like Silicon Valley South. But at the time, it was just nothing but farms
Yeah.
in San Fernando Valley to the north of LA. So when we moved there in the 70s, it was just orange trees. And we just
Yeah.
keep growing as a species and having more babies and building more buildings.
All right. So I asked the same question to all of my guests, and that question is, can you tell me who you are and share some experiences that have shaped your journey that has brought you to where you are today?
I think who I am and who I have always been, even since I was a child. I was one of those kids who seemed like an old person at a really young age.
Yeah.
And I've always been a healer, to some extent a teacher, but I think primarily a healer. One of my earliest memories is there was this horrible movie that came out maybe in the early 70s called A Child Named Sooner. And there was a scene where all these children like stone a bird to death. And that traumatized me so much that at 57, I'm still thinking about it. I've always been, I think, just very sensitive to like the pain and suffering in the world and of others. Um, and when I was about 12, I started noticing that I was feeling other people's feelings. Like I would be angry or sad, and I'd be wondering, where did this come from? And I'd realize it was coming from the person I was with. And they weren't even my feelings. I was just feeling them as if they were mine. So that was a useful noticing, because I think that there actually is a lot of usefulness in having that capacity for empathy, especially now that I'm a
Mm.
coach. And we also have to know where it's coming from. So my path has been, since too young, really thinking and having a violent, difficult childhood with a borderline personality, narcissist, drug addict mother who didn't love me. She died about 4 months ago, suddenly. It happened exactly as I expected. Nobody told me. I was not invited to the funeral. And the painful thing is finding out from my aunt and putting pieces together, things that I heard from my grandmother, that, wow, it was a lot worse than I knew. That he really did hate me for nothing I ever did. So when you have a parent like that, for survival, it's like you develop extrasensory perception to just kind of be ready for the weather and recover from what's going on and anticipate. So who am I and all that kind of stuff. I was the kid who helped adults love themselves. I was coaching the grown-ups when I was 11, 12 years old. And I was always looking at the questions of what are we as human beings? What is the nature of this universe we live in? And how do we have a better experience? So I majored in religion when I got to college, which is really comforting to experience how different peoples around the world tell the same stories of what is a human being, what is the universe, and how do we have a better experience. And just the different wisdoms and different stories and different ways of tackling the life experience. So, like, fast forward to after college by like a decade. Yeah, I started coaching back in the dark ages, when dinosaurs roamed the earth and nobody knew what a coach was. If I said I was a coach, they would say, what sport? And I would have to explain the whole thing, and we didn't have any
Yeah.
good definitions at the time. So it's a lot easier now. But it's still the same question of what is it to be human? What is the nature of the universe? Friend or foe? How do we have a better experience? So what I'm known for, which is the big cosmic joke, is I'm known for transforming relationship with money. And the joke is that was never my focus in life. My focus in life is healing and loving and relationship and improving the human experience. And money is the thing that kept getting in the way. Most notably because I was struggling to make money, even, with the education and half a dozen certifications and the marketing and doing all the work that you're supposed to do business wise. It was like I had superhuman powers to repel money.
Yeah.
And the reason I bring up money is difficult, if not impossible, to feel secure in the world without it. It's also difficult to feel wanted, loved, and valued without it. It is unlikely that you are treated as if you were loved and valued and wanted without it, because poverty brings up everybody else's existential fears. So, over the course of being a coach for a number of years in the entertainment industry, I was noticing that money is the number one excuse human beings give for what we can't have, do, or be. And it was getting in my way. And I wasn't finding a solution to my problem anywhere. I was working with coaches, I was taking classes, I was gaining new skills. I live in LA, which is sort of the woo capital of the planet. So I have the friends who wave their hands and blow in my third eye and speak the cosmic codes and make the funny noises to change my money DNA. And nothing was changing. And I was taking the marketing classes and the sales classes. And I took a class on overcoming sales objections, and I know I'm getting into business stuff. I'll bring it back to human stuff very, very quickly. But I took this class on overcoming sales objections, always looking for the answer to the problem. If I have more skills, if I know more, you know, if I have this new trick, whatever, then that will solve the problem. And I was really powerful at being a bigger problem than any solution out there. So I took the class on overcoming sales objections, which was like my Hail Mary, my last chance. And I learned the words to say when somebody says, oh, I'd love to hire you, but I don't have enough money or time or whatever, right? And I'm a really good student. I was hit by a car and in a coma and had a traumatic brain injury when I was 16. Couldn't read a page and remember it. I couldn't sleep for years. I was suicidal like every day for years. And I still graduated as a National Merit Scholar from high school. So if you tell me, okay, learn the script 20 years later to get clients, I do it. So I learned the magic words. I used it, and 7 times in a row, 7 people in a row, I overcame their objections, and they said yes, they would hire me. But the punchline is 7 people in a row never showed up for our first call and never paid, which is why I have a thing about overcoming objections. There's a reason they're there. So, anyway, when the 7th person didn't show up, the rejection and the despair and the hopelessness hit me really, really hard. It felt like I'm not wanted on planet Earth. I have a gift. I had mountains of testimonials. I was known for having a magical touch, and it didn't matter. If you can't make a living, it's like, we don't want you. You're not. And I it was a very dark, scary, painful, angry, hurt, like all the rejections of a lifetime just hitting at once. And I remember when I was stood up that 7th time, and I'm like, I've done everything. I was already taking classes to teach me how to do what I was already doing. I was like recircling. And I remember just being in that tiny little 1-bedroom apartment that I couldn't afford. Oh, I forgot to tell you. At that time, this was March of 2003, when I took that class and the 7 people said yes and didn't show up. I was living in Los Angeles making $100 a month, struggling to make $100 a month with an Ivy League education, half a dozen master certifications, mountains of testimonials, the website, the brochure, the marketing, working with a coach, and paying for everything with debt. And it still didn't work. And I was just at the point of giving up. Like, what's the point? I didn't want to be alive. The universe hated me. I hated the universe back. Nobody wanted me. I didn't get to live. There was no way that I could have a future that way. Even if I was really helping people, and all these, like the brand new actor with no credits, making some suggestions and connections, and she's starring in a primetime TV series and being in a big Denzel Washington movie, and the first-time director selling his movie for $1 million, and the award. I just had, and all of this was happening like within weeks of coaching people, just one after another, and I still couldn't make any money at it. And that's why I focus on money, because it's such a mirror to love and worth and safety.
During this time, though, during that time, how were you like? Because I can only imagine, like. So were those clients like they weren't paying you?
Well, what? Good question. So I started volunteering. Well, I first became an actress because I lived in LA, and I'm from LA, and that's kind of, a requirement of living in LA. I took a coaching program designed for people in the entertainment industry. And I found it so transformational for myself. It was the first time I saw myself as like an equal, as opposed to a child. The actor is the child, and everybody else at the table, the writers and producers and directors, are grown-ups. And I realized we're all children. We're all begging somebody to greenlight it. And when I got that, my relationship to the entertainment industry changed. And I started booking, and people started creating projects for me. And I became a coach for that company, a volunteer coach for that company. So people were paying all the money. I wasn't getting the money, but I was coaching. And then at a certain point, I started getting a lot of work, and I discovered I really didn't want to be an actor. I didn't like what it brought out in me. About 10 years into pursuing acting, it was like, you know what? It makes me so insecure. I'm lying about my age. I don't want to be so self-focused. I'm happier when I'm focused on other people and making other people happy. I wonder if I can make a living at this. And one of my coaching clients had been an actor, then a coach, and I helped him go back and get back into the professional acting field. And he said, go to my school, the school that I got credentialed at. So that's how I started. I started out charging just too low to be serious, but it was required for my certification to have 100 paid hours. So I was charging like $5 an hour, which is a joke. When it comes to actually making a living and charging real money, and I was still charging way, way, way too little, all this resistance started to come up, mostly because I was so afraid of hurting anyone. Like, just helping. Helping is my happy place. When I encounter somebody with a problem, it's like a light switches up and I animate. It's like, this is what I'm designed for, to help people with problems. Asking people to invest, that is, for me, the gap. That's the personal growth gap. That's the hard part.
Have you heard of the book called Jab, Jab, Jab,
No,
Right
no.
Hook? So that's kind of like, that solves the problem that you were struggling with, and a lot of entrepreneurs, is it's a book written by Gary Vaynerchuk. He said the secret to like asking when you're in the entrepreneur world, because you don't want to just like kind of be sleazy and just ask and like, oh, buy my course. Jab, jab, jab means like give, 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 like
Yeah.
give for free, give service, provide, give, show them,
Oh,
show your
I
audience,
already had
show
that
your
down.
customers what it
I had
is,
that down. I would
and
give sample
then
sessions,
yeah,
public. I was in demand public speaking. What works
yeah,
for Gary doesn't work for me and didn't work for me. It wasn't a strategy. I knew all the strategies. I implemented all the strategies. What happened for me, and it was something that I had never seen anywhere because I was looking everywhere, is I hit this really low spot where nothing I did worked and I was doing things well. And this is, by the way, this is, I think, a really a
yeah. I
key
hear you.
point.
I hear you.
When you are a listener, find yourself doing all the things you're supposed to be doing, and it's not working. It is my experience, because I've been coaching 30 years now. Probably should have given my bio at the beginning, but I didn't. I went into the deep existential thing, but I've been coaching 30 years. I have mentored many of the big name, high profile, multi-million dollar coaches. I was their mentor. I've made millions of dollars myself since 20 years ago, struggling to make $100. What changed for me is something that was not anywhere to be seen at the time. So I was in this really dark place. And when I cried myself out, raged, cried, universe hates me, I hate you back, until there was just nothing left. And there's a principle in psychology called enantiodrama, probably a Greek word. And what it means is when you fully express any emotion, the seed of its opposite. So if you completely express all your misery and grief and despair, the opposite will then come out. So I just emptied myself of everything until I had nothing to cry. And I had two thoughts. When I had screamed and cried and wailed myself, the first thought that I had was that maybe money needed to be my next area of spiritual growth, that I couldn't fulfill what I wanted to do in this world if I didn't handle this thing with money. And the second thought, and this is more important, was I got curious. I had the thought, what is going on inside of me that can't be with money? Because on paper, I had the celebrities and I had the testimonials and I had the marketing and I had the speaking gigs and I had the people who actually wanted to hire me because I had a reputation. And somehow I would, repel them at the last moment. Something did not make sense. I had the skills. I was an NLP trainer. I mean, it did not in
Yeah.
any way make sense in a real world. And the next day I had a call with my coach, which again is absurd. I was making $100 a month, not even near rent. And I had a coach, thank God, because it saved my life and set me on this path. And
Yeah.
this is where things changed for me. My coach heard my despair, my tale of woe, just like giving up everything that went wrong. And he asked me two things. First, what had gone on with money growing up? And I thought of some fights between family members when I was young, that inheritance is stolen from me, specifically a couple of really big ones, that I made a decision when I was very young that it wasn't really my business because I couldn't do anything about it anyway. And I loved everybody involved. And I made a decision that I would choose love over money, not realizing that I was also making a decision that money got in the way of love. So that was one, that was the light bulb moment. My coach said, if your money was a person, who would your money be? And instantly I saw this big, scary, dirty, violent biker dude, like tall, bald, the sideburns, the kind of a skinhead vibe, the tattoos, the white Peter shirt. I have nothing against
Yeah.
bikers, but this guy was just bad and scary.
Like money
Yeah,
pursued
and
you.
I never knew that I felt that
Yeah.
way about money. My feelings were so strong.
I did a similar test a
Mm.
couple weeks ago, and it was like if money was like coming over as like a friend or somebody like coming over to your house, like how
Mm.
would you like greet them, and how would you feel? How would you feel when you seen them? Would you be happy? Would you be expecting them? How would you feel when you first
So
seen
what was
them?
your answer?
My answer was like money is like a long lost
Mm.
friend that I haven't seen in a while, and that I would like to see more often. And I had to apologize for him.
So, um, I have worked with thousands of clients. I've worked with clients on living on couches and on public support and in really scary circumstances. And I've worked with billionaires, all with money drama. More people on the scarcity side of the equation, but there's a form of scarcity that just is part of the human experience and it shows up one way or another. The first time I had a client who was a multimillionaire, I was really surprised that he was hiring me. But it turned out his money wouldn't let him make money the way he wanted to make money doing good in the world. He needed a relationship with money who shared his
Mm,
values. That was the first time that it was like, oh, rich people can have money monsters too. And then I had a woman who had inherited
yeah.
20 something $1 million, and all of her relationships went to crap. She was suddenly the bank instead of the person. It killed her romantic life, everything. And that was, we had to slay her monster and change her relationship with money to have, so that she could have relationships that valued her, so that she could use the money for the philanthropy that she wanted without being a target, and to also have a romantic relationship with, because that's actually why she hired me in the first place, was the romance thing. And it took me a while to realize, whoa, the reason everything we're doing isn't working is she has her own money monster where her money got in the way of love. What I found works, because I've tried everything, because I've had so many clients and I've taught to millions of
Yeah.
people, is to create change. We want to create polarity. So I call my process, and I haven't even walked you through the process yet. I call my process financial alchemy. And the stress is on alchemy because honestly, I've used this process on love. I've used this process on health problems. Again, when you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing and nothing is working, very likely you are unconsciously protecting yourself from what you want. So it's not your fault. It's unconscious. If you knew, it would be different. It's not your fault, but it's your responsibility because only you can respond.
So
If,
how do we
if change
how do
isn't
we
happening, something isn't safe. And we need to find out what is not safe so we can make it safe. So,
okay.
in my first experience, I discover my relationship with money is a monster. Who knew? If you looked at my results, it would make sense. It was like I imagined money was the scary guy, and I had this instant awareness in that moment when I first saw this biker dude who was at that moment my relationship with money. I could feel every cell in my body wanting complete distance, which meant that no matter what I did, or how well I did it, or how often I did it, or how much I spent on it, or anything, it wasn't going to work. Because while all of my conscious energy and action is to make money, my body, my soul, like my being, knew that money was dangerous, would kill me.
Where do you think you got that
Uh,
from? Like, what do you think even caused that in the first
Parents,
place?
our first relationship, every person is totally, it's different, but there are certain common themes. I've coached people who had great childhoods.
Mm.
I've coached people who had horror movie childhoods.
Mm.
In general, our first relationship with money is our relationship with our parents because our parents, like money, provided shelter and sustenance and told us that we were loved or not, told us that we were valued or not, made us safe or not. So when I help clients look for the root cause, which is the first step of financial alchemy, it's 6 steps. The root cause of money drama is never about money. It's what money represents, which is love, worth, and safety. So anything that made you ever feel unloved or unlovable, not valued or unworthy or unsafe, especially if it doesn't look like it has to do with money, if it's an accident, if it's an illness, if it's violence, anything that makes the world unsafe gets grafted onto your relationship with money because money represents safety and security. Anything that made you feel unloved or unlovable gets grafted onto your relationship with money because money represents love.
How does money represent love?
Money represents,
Because I feel like you can not have money and still feel.
look, the people who come to me are often masters in other areas of life, spiritual masters, healers,
Mm.
really, like, they have all the other stuff going on. And especially my people who are the do gooders and the healers. They're like really good at all the upper chakra stuff, the intuition, the healing, the loving, the caring, the communication, all this. And money is a kind of a lower chakra of, it's survival. It is material. We could even say carnal. It is, the business of it. It is and it also represents much of the worst in the world because so much is done out of fear and hoping that enough money will squash that fear of being mortal and vulnerable. That's why oligarchs have so much more than they need because they are insecure too. So, because money represents worth and value, being valued is like another shade of love. Am I valued? Am I wanted? Am I admired? Do people want to be with me? Do they care about me? Or are they frightened and do they shun me? We see it in the way people interpret religion very, very frequently. Job has all this wealth, all this family. Oh, God loves him. Job loses all of it. The book of Job in the Bible was one of my favorite stories. Loses all of it through no fault of his own. And all of his comforters and friends go, "Oh, Job, you must have done something really bad to make God hate you like this." So this experience has been going on for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. It's nothing new. And now you've got law of attraction people who say, "Whoa, you must have been vibing really low. Your fault." No, stuff happens and it makes us feel this disconnection, like we are not wanted by life and by the universe. And so, to be totally transparent, I am not a financial planner. I get called a money coach, but I don't coach anybody on what to invest in, or, for
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Suzormans and Gary Vanderchucks and those people.
It's like a
I
mindset.
go even deeper than that, because my problem with mindset is like,
Mm.
we start the new year going, I am going to work out and reduce my calories and I'm going to be super healthy. And that lasts like 3 days. Because the conscious mind,
Mm.
remember I said it's not your fault, but it's your responsibility because your monster is unconscious. So if 3% of our awareness is conscious, and that might be like a very generous percentage, 97%, what we believe, our attitudes and our actions, spring from the unconscious. We don't usually consciously think about breathing unless we're having a panic attack. So we're talking about what's below the surface and making the unconscious conscious so that we can work together, so that our conscious mind and our unconscious are going in the same direction, because the unconscious always steers the ship because it's operating 24/7. So I
How
had
do you
this
do that?
scary money dude, and I became aware of like
Yeah.
how I'm protecting myself from money, and I never knew it before I made it a person. And I also realized there was no way I could have money in my life if it was this guy. That relationship had to end.
Mm.
Part of the problem with the way other people teach relationship with money, at least why it didn't work for me and for thousands of my own clients, is because money is abstract and money is made up and invented by human beings. What is real is our experience of love, our experience of worthiness, our experience of safety or not. Those are very real. Those are hardwired into our human beingness. So when we make money a person, and we're aware of how that money feels about us, and when we uncover the root causes of its monsterhood, because we focus on that, that's alchemy, transmuting lead into gold. That's why I call this financial alchemy. We are taking lead in human experience, the monster. If something isn't
Yeah, the
working,
monsterhood of the
again,
money.
change happens at the speed of safety. If change isn't happening, something isn't safe. We have to find the monster. The money monster is never actually about money. Money is the symptom. What is really going on is what money represents, which are injuries around love, worth, and safety. So I look at those. I look at anything that made you feel unlovable, unworthy, or not valued, or unsafe. As I said, illness, accidents, violence, any of that, and
Can
build the
you?
monster from that. We give it personhood because a person is real
Yeah.
to us. Money is always an idea, but a person has flesh and
Mm.
blood, and that's our first experience of life, is our relationship with people. So just like every failure of
Yeah.
parents or teachers or kids, friends growing up, or business partners or boyfriends or girlfriends, every rejection, every betrayal that made us feel unloved, unworthy, or unsafe is really, really useful here. That's in step number one, uncovering the root cause. Step number two is then giving personhood to the root cause as if it were a person. Two rules. This monster is not you or any part of you, and the monster is not your parents. Because at the end of the day, the monster will destroy you, and only one of you gets to survive. So, step number three is you have to get rid of the monster. And what I teach differently now, having coached thousands of people and seeing what works, and having coached a lot of people from zero to millions and multi-millions of dollars in sometimes crazy short amounts of time. I think the speed record holder is Leslie from Idaho. She had been trying to sell her house for years, and nobody had even looked at the house in over a year. And within an hour of my coaching her, she got a call to look at the house, and she sold it for $1.2 million that weekend. I coached her on a Friday. By Sunday, she was a
Did
millionaire. And I've checked in with
did
her
she
since.
do anything specifically
Hmm?
after that, or was it a
Well,
coincidence?
coincidences
Or
mean two things happening at the same time. I am a queen of coincidence. I am a queen of coincidence. If you go to my website and you look at success stories, that's a really long page, and that's just a fraction of the stories that come in, and usually not the biggest numbers. My client Perry went from zero to over $12 million in the following 3 years. And that had more to do with she took away from the process. She came away from my coaching with the self love and self respect to really know what she deserves. So when challenges came up, she didn't fold, and she really stuck to her guns and went for what she wanted. So I have stories of people who are just in the middle of the process and they get a job offer while they're still in the process. I've had that experience, even doing that to myself.
mm-hmm.
As I said, change happens at the speed of safety. If you're protecting yourself from something, you push it away and you don't even know you're doing it. And there's a very strong pattern that I've observed that when something becomes safe, it shows up, and it shows up faster and bigger than you may have expected or would make sense. And I've had that not just with money, but love stories and health and spontaneous healings too. And I see a really cute kid crawling in the background. So the first of 6 steps: uncover the root cause, which is always money, love, and worth. Personify the root cause as a person, monster. And then the third step is annihilate it. Get rid of it by whatever. You can use the weapon of your imagination. Only one of you gets to survive. Choose you. And put everything in that monster, every life experience that no longer gets to stay in your life. You put that in the monster and you destroy it. You just imagine destroying it. And that's step 3. That's the first half. The second half is a lot more fun. So back in the day,
Okay.
remember I had the biker, and I was really aware that if money is this guy, there's no way that I can have money in my life. I have to get rid of him. At the time, we just
Yeah.
broke up. That's obviously not what I teach anymore, because I found my clients make more money if they slay the monster in a really dramatic, energetic way, which is a way of rising up out of the victim experience. Victimhood gets such a bum rap and so much unfair trash talking by my peers. Do not harsh on the person who is already in the worst place. So just like, don't attack the person who is in pain. It seems obvious, but
Mm.
coaches and friends and well-meaning people do that all the bloody time. And it's more of that, well, your life is great because God loves you, and your life is awful. Step 3 is annihilating the monster dramatically. Just make sure there are no
Mm-hmm.
bloody bits left over. It's completely binary. There is monster or not. Check if there's any is left. When it feels like the monster is gone, and this came from my own experience.
Yeah.
Here's my take on victim experience. They happen. Sometimes maybe you made a bad choice, but why should you be punished so badly for that, as if you're a terrible person? I think because human beings are so afraid of bad things that we really want to find a reason to blame the victim. Sort of like, hey, Job, you must have done something really bad. I think things just happen. And what matters is what do we do and how do we use them for our own empowerment when they do. So I believe that our victim experiences are actually deeply, deeply sacred. They happen for a reason or they wouldn't happen. Only you can make up the reason
Yeah.
later. But the most important thing is they become fuel for our evolution. And that's the power. They can be a huge source of personal power. Not maybe while we're in the middle of it, but you've already had those experiences in love, worth, safety, whatever pain you've had, you get to use it now. That's the lead in human experience, the lead we turn into the gold. That is why that's why I say our victim experiences are sacred and to be respected. I also believe that our victim or whatever terrible experiences we have, they humanize us, or they can, so that I can have some humility and I can have some respect for your experiences instead of saying, well, it must be your fault because I didn't have that. That makes us monsters. I just know that, for example, before I had my catastrophic car accident when I was 16, I was an easy peasy straight A student who really ignorantly judged people who didn't do well because I thought that it would be easy for everybody and they just weren't doing the work. Then when my brain was broken, I realized what an arrogant person that I had been before, and I wouldn't have known that because my brain stopped working and I couldn't do the things that I'd always done before. And I realized, wow, I shouldn't have been thinking those critical thoughts of other people because I don't know. And that gave me, I think it was necessary for my evolution so that I could understand that, everybody is having a different life experience and it needs respect. So our victim experiences are sacred. They're very useful here because they are the first step. Uncover the root causes, your victim experiences in love, worth, and safety. Personify it. And then when we get to step 3 and I say destroy the monster, that slaying the dragon or whatever your monster looks like, I recommend that it looks personal and human, but not like your parents or you, because I don't want you killing your parents or you or your boyfriend or girlfriend, you know? But it's like an imaginary puppeteer who uses all the people who have ever hurt you. It's much bigger than any one person. But you want to make it personal, and this monster hates you and wants to destroy you, and you get to choose who gets to survive, and you choose yourself, and you destroy the monster. There's something that we see in all the world's religions, whether it's Kali or Durga or Shiva in India, or it's St. George in Western religion, or St. Michael. There's the sacred warrior, and that's kind of what you are. Is you are just obliterating what does not belong in your life experience, what does not fit your values, all the injustice in the world that wakes you up at night. So that when you slay the monster, which is 3, and it's gone, and there's no monster, all that remains is love. That's all that remains. And now we give personhood to the love that remains. And we call that money. And that becomes your new relationship with money because it is based on love. It shares your values. This person loves you and loves you more than anybody in the world. This person is safe. And it is your new relationship with life. I call it money because money is that area of life that needs love and healing so much. But you can call it your life honey. You can call it your health honey. You can call it your love honey. I call it money honey because money honey rhyme. And that's step number 4. Your money honey.
What about opportunity? Opportunity? Would that
Yeah.
be included in there?
Well, I usually make the monster when I'm coaching somebody. Most people come to me because they have a money monster. But I had a client who came to me because she had a catastrophic illness, and she wanted me to coach her on that, the disease monster. And my reaction, yikes, I am not a faith healer. I don't know if this will work, but I will do my best. And she, at the time, had this horrible neurological problem from exposure to black mold, where she was losing her eyesight, she was losing her balance, she had these twitches, and we slayed her mold monster. And we went really, really, really deep into the, life experience root cause of the mold monster. I don't know why it worked. But after coaching her, certain things happened. And within weeks, she couldn't use her glasses anymore because her eyesight had improved so much. And I saw her a month later, and her balance was so much better. The twitches were gone, and she continued to get better and better. By the way, this woman is in her 70s, and all this is happening. And now last I spoke to her, she was, traveling the country with her sweetheart because she was healthy. And we'd already done the money monster before the health monster. And it's, the universe gets our attention through money, love, and health. Just different doors into the same room, which is my experience of life, my relationship with life and myself. So this new honey that feels like love is your new relationship with life. And by extension, yourself. I call it money for this exercise that we're talking about here, because again, money is the number one excuse why people give for what they can't have, do, or be, which makes money the bad guy and the villain, which is not a good relationship with money. So now we want this money who loves you and wants to be with you, shares your values, and wants to save the world with you. And that's step number 4. Step number 5 is have a conversation. If money wants to be with you, well, what does that look like? What does money need to get to be with you? This is a totally different question than what does money need to love you? If you have slayed the monster and it's really gone and all that exists is love, then this new relationship with money, also known as life, loves you, because all there is love. Person loves you more than anybody in the world because it's your relationship. So love is unconditional. If it isn't there, that isn't a money honey. Go back and slay some more monsters. I've coached in one session, I've coached a client where we slayed as many as 10 layers of monsters before we got to the honey, because that's what the client needed. But when you have the honey, then it's love, it's unconditional, but presence is conditional, because you have the body, so you're the gatekeeper. What does your money honey need to get to be with you, or love need from you, or health need from you to be with you the way it wants to be with you? And what I love about the answers is they can be so unexpected. When somebody asks their money honey, what do you need from me? And the answer that comes back is, I needed to make 20 cold calls that week. I guarantee you that answer never came from a money honey in my presence. That was when I would dig a little deeper, I'd find out, no, that sounds as bad to the monster as it sounded to me. Or that sounded as bad, that sounded as like money monsterish and not uplifting to your money honey. The only way to find out is like to run it by this new imaginary person and see what lights them up. So things that I've noticed money honeys want. Things like I need you to love yourself more. I need you to trust. I need you to love me. I need you to have fun. I need you to relax. That's a hard one for women to hear, myself included. No woman wants to be told to relax. I've got a client struggling with that right now. Because it can feel scary. We like to be in action to get things done because it makes us feel more in control. And sometimes What we're chasing, when we're chasing what we want, we're chasing it away. We're pushing so hard, we're pushing it away. And sometimes we just need to trust ourselves and trust the process. You know, different times need different things. There are moments in time where it is a
Yeah.
time to push. But check with your money, honey, for alignment. So having a conversation with your money, honey, is step number 5, because the great thing about making money a person, and a person worthy of your deepest love and admiration, who you want in your life, even if it wasn't money, is you get to have conversations. Are you like struggling with the problem? Share it with your money honey and hear what your money honey has to say, how your money honey sees it differently. I would focus first on, what does your money honey feel like? What does it feel like to step into your money honey's arms? Relax in your money honey's arms. What does your money honey smell like? Feel like? How does your money honey feel
Yeah.
about you? What does your money honey want you to know? Now, what does your money honey feel, how much your money honey wants to be with you, and what does your money honey need from you to be with you even more? And the answers that come from that question tend to be very vague and global. Like, I need you to be happy. I need you to love yourself. I need, those kind of things. Things that are aspirational and almost certainly true and impossible for any human being to do 24/7 for the rest of your life. Because we are designed to feel everything in constant movement and motion, not to be happy all the time.
Yeah.
So there's a final step, which is step 6, which is something that you can actually accomplish and give yourself a win that you can do. Unlike being happy 24/7 for the rest of your life, taking a concrete, measurable action, physical action, is something that you actually can do and get a win. Wins make us feel good about ourselves, make us feel more confident, more worthy, more powerful, and more lovable. So the final step is, what concrete, measurable action are you going to take to demonstrate to yourself that you're committed to this totally new relationship with money? That's when the answer, like 20 cold calls, came up once. And my heart sank, because I knew that this client was really trying to do a good job. But that, when I asked, how does that make your money honey feel? The instant response was, ew, no. The money honey was like, oh, that sounds heavy. And I think really what it came
Yeah.
up to, I don't remember what it was specifically with this person, but I've heard lots of things like, go dancing, get a massage, do your taxes. But when the person did her taxes, she came back to me and said that it felt like foreplay. I had a client, Katie, whose money honey wanted her to go skating. And it was the middle of December in Canada, so it's really cold there. I hear, because I live in Southern California, and what do we know about cold? That first day, she makes that commitment. She promises her money honey she's going to go skating, and then she doesn't do it. The first day, she's so worried about money, working so hard to solve the money problems, that she doesn't go skating, and nothing changes. Day number 2, so worried about money, puts it off. Skating seems silly, so she doesn't do it. Day 3, which is a Friday, she takes her son, who I think was 10 years old at the time. This is gotta be close to 20 years ago. So her son must be a grown up now. They went skating. They had this heart connection. They had a great time. She came home. She got a phone call giving her $10,000 without her even asking. And I have a lot of stories like that, of just wild things
Wait, what
happening when people take an action that doesn't appear to be money related. Just,
if that action requires money that you
well,
don't have?
that doesn't make sense. Well, here's the thing. You come up with the action.
Yeah.
When I ask you, what are
Okay.
you going to do to demonstrate to yourself that you are in a new relationship with money? If you pick an action that you can't do because of money, you are in a relationship with a money monster, because you're blaming money for what you can't do, have, do, or be.
Okay.
Yeah, that you still have a monster. We haven't slayed your monster. So, of course, that question would come up. But yeah, it doesn't, you don't need money to take a bath if you have a bathtub. Or take a walk. What action are you going to take to demonstrate to yourself that you are committed to this new money honey relationship?
Mm,
That you are committed.
that you can
I
do.
don't teach that money is going to be a Santa Claus or a fairy godmother that you sit on the couch and you just think your law of attraction thoughts and money goes out there and lives your life for
Yeah.
you, because that makes you helpless and that becomes a money monster. I had a client named Chris Clavio at least a decade ago who slayed his monster and had a money honey, and then the money honey relationship went south. And suddenly he had this cute
Mm,
lady money criticizing him all the time. And as soon as I heard that, I told him, that is a monster in a cute dress, and you have to get rid of that monster. And we dug into what the monster represented and how it made him feel. And he had to get rid of that monster. And then he had a new money honey on the other side. And his feedback was, oh my God, that feels so real. Like this new relationship felt more real. The reason I tend to make the money honey a romantic partner archetype, not necessary, especially because I have coached so many people who have had such horrible drama and sexual trauma and relationship
mm,
trauma that a romantic partner just isn't safe, doesn't feel possible. That's a barrier there. That's okay. It's not necessary. The only rule is your money honey loves you and is safe and respects your boundaries and wants what is best for you and wants your happiness and is worthy of your deepest admiration and respect, and you want that relationship too. That's the rule. What I find is over time, that relationship may evolve into a romantic money honey archetype. There's a
mm.
certain juiciness to romantic love that just lights us up and makes us want to be alive. And lovers are equals. You have the power
Yeah.
to break your money honey's heart when you make money the monster, when you devalue yourself. Huge push away from, because it breaks money's heart. So the rule of your money honey is your money honey wants you to be happy, wants you to be the powerful, worthy, lovable person you really are, underneath all the garbage of a life of experiences. It's just kind of a way to tap back into
And
your best
then,
self through the eyes of the beloved. So when the monster is gone and you've got this lovable, I'll say in your case, your money honey is going to be a beautiful woman who adores you and sees you as the hero. Ask her what
yeah.
she needs, who she needs you to be for her so she can be with you the way she wants to. And then you decide what you are going to do, what you are going to do to demonstrate to her that you are committed to her and this new kind of relationship where she is your beloved and your partner and your cheerleader, but you are still the man. You're still the person with the body who lives your life and evolves and you're powerful, and it makes you a better dad. It makes you the human being you really came here to be. And then you make the decision, what are you going to do to demonstrate that to your new money honey and yourself, that this is who you are. And it could be taking your little girl
I
to the
think.
park. I don't know. You run it by your money honey and you see what
um,
makes her light up with happiness and go, yes. Another client of mine, Janet, her money honey wanted her to go walking.
yeah.
How do you make money going walking? She put it off for 2 weeks because she was so like worried about and trying to make money and get clients. For 2 weeks, she didn't take that walk. She finally took that walk, and she met two people on that walk who hired her for more than she'd ever charged before. I
Yeah.
don't say that if you do what your money honey says, something is going to happen like that. I have no way of knowing
Yeah.
in advance what is going to happen, when or how much. But I do know that when you take an action and you keep your word, you feel better about yourself. You feel more powerful in the world. You feel more worthy and more lovable and more deserving because you made a commitment and you kept it. And that confidence moves the dial, and it changes your
Mm,
energy and it changes the way you show up in the world, and the world responds to it.
I feel that. I think to me, my actions just doing this, keep keep doing my podcast, keep yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's really it.
And also, you have to get rid of the monster first. The bed is not big enough to
Mm,
be with both. As long as you have a monster, you're basically cheating on this loving relationship with money. So you can't skip the monster part. And you want to go as deep as you
okay.
can without harming yourself. You do not need to re traumatize yourself. You do not need to harm yourself. You just need to go deep enough
Mm,
to have enough of an experience that you have what I call a critical mass of ick. Like the world just feels terrible. I don't want to
right.
be here. No wonder. If this is my relationship with money, no wonder. This is unfair. This hurts. You want to not make it intellectual. You want to have a full experience because that lights your neurology so that we can rewire your brain.
Mm,
The world is full of triggers, and they can trigger us to contract because it hurts, but we can also take the same triggers and rewire our response to get better results.
well, is there any like one thing that we can do to help really start to feel all that
Well, here's
reset?
if it's possible, and I
Yeah.
don't know that that's possible for everybody, but I find that, okay, here's what I recommend. Go to my website at morganarae.com. Go to start with the 4-part money magnetic video series, totally free, and just opt into that at the top. And you will get 4 emails over 4 days with a different video in each one. Start with that.
Mm,
I also have a quiz on morganarae.com, my money love quiz. That gives more curated response. Depending on where you are in your journey, in your relationship with money, I will give a different suggestion. I might say, oh, start with the video series, but I also might send you to like an audio class or some other free resource that I think will be helpful. I always include free stuff as a starting place. I find that people who have great results from the free stuff become my best clients later on. And before you invest in me, you should have a taste anyway and see if it fits with your value system and just is a good fit for you. So I would start with that. There is the quality of my communication, which is sort of like an energetic transmission for me to guide you through the process to the best that I can. The best results come from coaching.
yeah.
Depends entirely on the individual and what the person needs. I have coached a person over 15 minutes and they made $100,000 the next day. And I had a client who it took us 8 hours to slay that monster and get her money honey. But she also made $1.2 million out of the blue over the next 2 months. So it's not for me to determine how it's going to go. It's for me to see what you need and follow that. The most
Mm,
important thing, though, especially I think given the nature of your show, which is really about self development, every time I talk about relationship with money, and I give examples because I know I sound woo. I do. I sound very woo. I'm also just a very practical person. I was a National Merit Scholar in math and science when I graduated from high school,
mm,
even with the brain trauma. I got my degree in
yeah.
religion from Smith College. I was raised by a pack of lawyers, so I'm very into logic and argument and proof, except for the rocket
Yeah.
scientist, my grandfather who worked at NASA. So, very rational family.
Oh wow.
So, I share the numbers and I share, you can see dozens and dozens of client stories in their own words at morganarae.com if you look at success stories. But the point is, whenever I talk about relationship with money, I'm really talking about relationship with life. Money is that area of life that we struggle with that needs our love and healing. So I find it useful to call it
Mm,
your money honey so that you can have more money in your life. If money's not the thing, we can focus on life or love or health or whatever it is. In
yeah.
my experience, the big payoff is your complete experience of life changes as a result of slaying the monster and having this new relationship with your money honey. Your complete experience of yourself and your lovability and your worthiness and your power completely changes before you see any cash. And then the cash is like a really nice side dish. It's not the main course,
Dessert. It's
but
not a
it's
dessert.
dessert. But the main course is life, and having a
Yeah,
happy
yeah.
life that is focused on love
Mm-hmm.
and quality lifestyle and a great legacy, because that's all there is.
No, I agree.
You'll
Yeah.
get there very quickly.
Hopefully, hopefully soon.
Outer change. It takes a
Well, cause
while.
I'm a super like
Yeah.
self-aware person, so it's like like you were saying in the beginning, it's like taking that consciousness and then like being aware. Like do I do like consciousness practices. I don't know what you want to call it. I do that like every day, like journaling, breathing, like all that consciousness stuff every
Well,
day.
slay your monster, get a
Um,
money honey, and start journaling to your money honey. Thomas, this is what I'm worried
mm,
about right now. Money honey, and see what your money honey says. I
yeah,
give that homework to my clients all the time. I do it all the time.
I'm gonna do that after this.
And
But
it gives you a
yeah,
new way of relating to life challenges.
mm,
Opportunity. What do I need to learn here?
yeah. Um, but Morgana, I'm gonna lead into
Mhm.
our conclusion. But for anyone who's listening, no, I think you have a very unique and different insight in, I guess, our concept of life and money overall. Um, I think like the key takeaway for me that like really, I wouldn't say it's like a mindset switch like per se, but it's like to me everything we went over, it's kind of like building that new relationship with whatever the monster is, whether it be money
Mhm.
or what have you. It's building that new relationship up about respect and love and honoring each other, honoring and letting go of that monster and having it be like a new friend.
I prefer
Yeah.
millionaire heart set because the mind will follow the
Mm.
heart. If the heart fears money, fears becoming a bad person, fears drama, fears of being a target, fears it'll be too hard, whatever, fears it will get in the way of love, fears that terrible things are done in the name of money and all that kind of stuff, we will create distance. But if money loves us, if money wants to save the world with us, if money wants to be with us, then we have a very different dynamic. And the mind will work with the heart, will follow the heart.
Great words. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
But so I end every podcast the same way, and first we play a quick little
Okay.
game, and it's called a game of stories. I don't know
Okay.
if you can see it, but it's completely randomized. There's a bunch of cards with a bunch of different questions. So the question is, can you share something? This is kind of crazy. Can you share something taboo that I would sell everything I have to be able to? It's kind of confusing. Share something taboo, because there's a prompt card and then there's a story
I
card on
would
the
sell
side.
everything I have to be able to.
Oh, okay. I would sell everything I have, I guess.
Yeah, I don't have an answer for that one.
Pull another one. Share something awkward that I wish people would introduce me by talking about. I don't know if you can see this one.
Okay. I wish people would introduce me by talking about rather than. Huh.
Awkward.
These are really hard
By talking
questions.
about blank rather than. Yeah, they're supposed to be like kind of to get you to
Yeah.
think.
Okay.
The one I think about this is like, I wish people would introduce me by talking about, like, you're known as like the money
Right.
person, I guess, or so something other than that that may be an awkward part of you.
I think what's way more important, and this is exactly how it would fit that question, is
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I am kind of, not kind of, I really truly am known globally as a money manifestation expert. But my
Yeah,
interest and focus has never actually really been about money. It's about relationship with life.
which is crazy.
So I think I would rather be introduced, and I don't know the exact words, but more along the lines of, and this goes to where we began, who am I? I am a healer and a teacher.
Yeah.
And I like it when people call me magical, and I purr. I purr
You
when my
purr
clients call me their head witch. Yeah,
like a cat. Big
of
fan.
course.
All right. Now that's interesting. So my final 5 questions are: number 1, what's your biggest regret? And if you don't have one, because a lot of people say, "Oh, you live life with no regrets."
Oh, well, I think my biggest regret is all
Mm-hmm.
the years that I didn't value myself, especially when I was dating. And I would go out on these dates with
Oh,
guys I didn't even like, and I would try to get them to like me.
the ick.
I wish I could go
I
back
feel
in
that.
time and give myself a pep talk. But I needed to go through my process. It got so bad, I slayed my love
Yeah.
monster in 2012, and I met my husband 2 months later. I was already 45. I had never
Oh
been
wow.
married. I got married for the first time in my life at 47. That was 10 years ago. We've been married 26 times in 21 countries. He came up with the idea that we should get married 100 times in 100 countries. When I made love safe, boom, it was there really fast and bigger than I ever imagined. Yeah, my biggest regret is just all the years of my life that I undervalued myself. And I learned it from my mom because she didn't love me. But it also gave me the
Mm,
capacity to recognize that in others and love them and have respect and compassion for the process of learning to love yourself. For those of us who didn't come to it naturally.
I don't think anyone really comes to it naturally. I did some work on myself as well. But next question is, who or what has made the biggest impact in your life that makes you who you are?
I think my dad. I left my mom's house when I was 14 because I was going to die if I stayed there. And my dad has been dead for 5 years now. And it's so
Mm.
bittersweet, and I miss him. Many of my worst qualities come from him because he was a lawyer and he would get so outraged at injustices and stupid people. And it was so awful to be with him when he was like that. And I see myself doing that sometimes. But he was also so kind
Mm.
and generous and idealistic and such a good human being. And he was such a good father that I didn't recognize at the time because he had all of his own insecurities. So a lot of my idealism comes from him. You know, if you get just one person in your life, just one parent or surrogate parent, that is enough.
Yeah.
That is enough. Like, so many don't even have that, and you can still recover from it. But I'm really grateful that I just had one.
No, yeah, I believe parents really. That's why I'm trying to be a good parent myself.
It looks different now that I'm
Yes.
older, and I
Mm-hmm.
now that I'm a grown up. I
You're finally
Yeah,
a grown
well,
up.
because now I've got a stepdaughter who is, I guess, 24 years old now.
Hmm.
Smart. Being on this side of the equation, I look back at myself at her age. And
Yeah.
when we're young, we tend to be really selfish. We tend to take a lot for granted. And so there's so much that I did not recognize that my dad was doing for me.
Well,
Now,
even those who never have kids, like that's fine. That's perfectly fine. Not never having kids, but becoming a parent, you gain a different perspective on life. I think than those that don't. You'll never truly understand the feeling of being a parent, and that's okay. But it teaches you a lot about human nature and life.
it gives me a lot more appreciation for what my parents were that I couldn't be
Yeah.
aware of because I was just learning to be a person, which is the
Mm.
job of children. Children need to be self focused
Yeah.
because they're just learning how to be people. And
And it
I also
teaches.
one of the reasons I didn't have a kid of my
Yeah.
own, the big reason is because I hit the jackpot with my stepdaughter, and I thought, oh, nothing can top this. She's so great,
Mm.
and I wanted her to have
Yeah.
the full attention of her daddy. I didn't want to take that away from her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Everybody has, I guess, different life paths. I had a feeling though, like I always wanted to be a father, and I became one really young. I was 24 when I had my daughters. I'm about to be 30 this year, and
Mm.
I would like more with the right person. But next question: what is one lesson you learned the hard way?
Mm. Well, I think I shared it today, which is, as I like to say, change happens at the speed of safety. I believe that we never take anything away without, it's my philosophy to never take anything away without replacing it with something better. So if we're going to take away your money monster, you better have a honey on the other side. If you're going to quit smoking, you better have something great to replace it with. I think the biggest thing I had to learn was what to say no to. in order to say yes to myself. And it goes back to that first question where I think my life lesson will always be layers and layers and layers of learning to love and value myself. That's just my thing that I'll keep coming around to. A coach friend of mine, I love this image. He says that our life issue is like an ice cream cone. You know, those pointy sugar cones that have the point and it spirals up. So you have the problem in the beginning. And so mine will always be, am I lovable? Am I worthy? The root cause of all my
Mm.
monsters. And in the beginning,
Yeah.
it's like 24/7. You're living in it. But as you grow and gain tools and evolve and you spiral up, you will keep coming. Let's say it's right here. So you come to it. And then as you grow and you get better, you spend a lot more time away from your core life lesson. But you'll still come around. You'll just spend less time there to get the next message, the next tool to like
Mm.
elevate to your next level of Super Mario Brothers Morgana's life, you know? So I think that is the lesson of just keep learning to value me, and that value is not contingent on labels. I'm smart, but I can lose my brain and I'm still here, right?
I think that just goes back down to also practicing gratitude and grace for yourself.
It's
Yeah.
just, I so believe that if everybody
Mm-hmm.
really felt loved and were able to,
Mm-hmm.
because I think some people can't, and they are the most destructive people in the world because they can't feel loved, even if they are.
Mm-hmm.
But if we all could, I think we would be just such better people. And virtually all of our social
Yeah.
problems would
Yeah.
fall away quickly.
And understanding how to love yourself. We forget to love ourselves
Well, I don't know
sometimes.
if we can feel loved without also feeling lovable. The thing that blocks the
Mm.
feeling loved is not feeling worthy of it.
Okay.
And it's tricky because you can't just blame the person and say, well, you should love yourself more, which then becomes, oh, that's just another thing I don't do well enough. So we're wired by the experiences that we have on the outside, and yet the only person who can change us on the inside is us. So it's never one
Mm-hmm.
or the other. You know, they talk about nurture versus nature, but it's always
Oh
both. And
yeah.
it's always a dance between your actions and your experience and your interpretation, and then what you make meaning of it, and then your next action, and then the feedback you get and the meaning you give to it. And it's always a relationship. It's just your relationship with yourself and your relationship with life and all of the beings that are
I
that
like to
relationship.
practice. I like to practice the what's it called? The fill your cup.
Yeah.
I like to practice that. Or like the airplane, like put your mask on
Yeah.
first. I like to do that.
Full permission to fail,
But it makes sense though.
full permission
Yeah.
to be imperfect. My grandmother, when we had her memorial, um, it was a glorious memorial. And one of my childhood friends
Mm-hmm.
shared a story about how he came to her when she was dying. I was lucky enough to be there at the moment that she died. Just she was surrounded by family, and we were all just loving on her, and she left peacefully. But a childhood friend who visited her
Mm.
slightly before that came and read all this beautiful stuff from the Tibetan Book of the Dead about, eternity and the soul. And I'm listening to him
Yeah.
talk, and I'm just basking in it. And then he says, my grandmother said, bullshit. That's bullshit. Life is about having experience. experiences, lots and lots of experiences.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Oh wow.
love
Okay.
that her philosophy was life is about having experiences, have lots and lots of experiences, not just good experiences, but experiences. Because we're here for such a short time,
Yeah.
and for eternity, we will just be, in Shavasana, dead.
Nah, I'm a very spiritual person, but I don't consider myself religious. I believe there's a higher God, power, consciousness, whatever, energy, but I don't practice any one religion.
I study them all, and then I have my own
Yeah,
relationship with
that's cool.
the universe.
Yeah. Well, this next question is kind of in your lane, I guess. If you had all the time and all the money in the world, what would you want to
Um,
experience?
if I had all the money in the world, I would immediately want to end world hunger, clean our water supply. What could be more fun than to put all the resources in the world towards peace and prosperity? Talk with the kindest, wisest people and the scientists and the people who know how to get things done. I don't understand spending billions of dollars to go into space for 4 minutes or buy Twitter when how much more exciting would it
Elon
be?
Musk.
We're having a crisis in Sudan, a genocide in Sudan, starvation in
Mm,
Sudan. That would be Nigeria, Yemen, that would be work with the kind people.
yeah, like impacting the world in a net
Totally.
positive way. Like if there's anywhere in the world that's in lack or not in the best place, if you could do
Yeah.
something to have a net
I had
positive
all the money in the
effect.
world, like feed everybody, free medical care for
Yeah.
everybody, clean up the environment, housing for everybody, you know, addiction treatment for the addicts, give people what they
Yeah.
need and try to teach kindness and collaboration, help people, whatever shows up, and do my best. That would be fun.
No, I align with that. The final question is there anything that we haven't covered that you'd like to cover that you'd like to resonate with the
I
audience?
think we're pretty thorough. I'm glad that I mentioned my adorable husband, and we're done. I think we're good.
Well, everyone, that was Morgana Rae. Go check her out. I hope you got some sort of insights from this episode. And yeah, as always, stay curious, keep going.